But we begin tonight with It's the Economy, Stupid. James Carville's famous admonition from the 1992 election that remains true today. Polls show the economy continues to be the top issue for many voters, including inflation and affordability. And yet there is only one candidate who is proposing policies that would actually help Americans, Vice President Kamala Harris. Here she is today in New Hampshire.
My vision of an opportunity economy is one where everyone can compete and have a real chance to succeed, where everyone, regardless of who they are, where they start, can build wealth, including intergenerational wealth, where workers are treated with dignity and everyone has the freedom to join a union if they choose, where we remove barriers to opportunity so anyone who wants to start a business can have access to the tools and the resources they need to do that.
The VP was there to unveil a big tax break proposal for small businesses, $50,000 to be exact, for startup businesses, which would be a huge boost from the existing $5,000 tax break. And counter to the online trolls and far-right commentators claiming she doesn't have any policies, this is just one of many that Harris has begun to roll out regarding the economy. There's the plan to provide $25,000 in down payment assistance to first-time home buyers, the plan to restore the expanded child tax credit and add a $6,000 tax credit for parents of newborns. On health care, she wants to expand the current $35,000 monthly cap on out-of-pocket costs for insulin and expand the upcoming $2,000 annual limit on out-of-pocket costs for prescription drugs for Medicare enrollees to all Americans. She's also calling for a federal plan to ban price gouging to lower grocery prices and everyday costs. Now let's compare that to Donald Trump's plans. In addition to extending and increasing his 2017 massive tax cut for the super rich and big businesses, he has proposed deporting roughly 11 million undocumented immigrants, which would cause huge problems for the agriculture and construction sectors, resulting in higher food and housing costs for Americans. He's also proposed imposing a 10% tariff on all products imported to the U.S. and up to 60% on all Chinese goods, which would essentially be a tax on every single one of those goods, meaning higher costs for American families. And his go-to line for how he will somehow pull a rabbit out of a hat to make everything more affordable is drill, baby, drill, i.e., by bringing energy costs down, all costs will come down. Okay, the problem with that plan is that under the Biden-Harris administration, the United States is already producing more oil, not only than any other time in U.S. history, no, but more than any other country on the planet ever has, ever. You don't need to take it from me, y'all. Moody's Analytics found that Harris's plans would cut the deficit by nearly $3 trillion, while Trump's plans would add more than $2 trillion over the next 10 years. And according to Goldman Sachs, the U.S. economic growth would see a boost with a Harris win and would fall if Trump returned to office. Yet when you ask your average voter who they trust more on the economy, they somehow often say Trump. And they often say, well, it's because he's a businessman. Okay, well, look at his current businesses. In addition to his 6 previous bankruptcies, 6, his latest business endeavor, Trump Media, the social media company behind Truth Social, is headed in the direction of becoming unlucky number 7. That is because over the past 6 months, the stock price has dropped a whopping 70%, and it is continuing to drop. Now, just think what it would be like if Trump was again in control of the entire nation's economy. Joining me now, Robert Reich, who was Secretary of Labor in the Clinton administration. He is currently Professor of Public Policy at UC Berkeley, and Alencia Johnson, Senior Advisor to the 2020 Biden-Harris campaign and the author of the upcoming book, Flip the Tables. Oh, I like that title, Alencia Johnson. I am going to start with you. I want to talk about Vice President Harris first before we get to the Trump of it all. These proposals that she's putting on the table, they are obviously aimed right at the middle class and working class and people who want to start businesses. Talk about the timing of that and the efficacy.
Listen, I think that was perfect timing of her to make this announcement today. I was listening to the speech, and she said for first-time startup business owners that they were going to have a $50,000 tax credit. I mean, who wouldn't want to start a business under a Harris administration? And this is coming off of the heels of the convention and the Labor Day and right before the debate. So the campaign and Vice President Harris are putting out tea leaves of her policy, actually some substantial pieces of her policy, but giving us some tea leaves into what she's going to talk about at the debate. We've already been talking about the expanded child tax credit. She also, and the campaign is also making couching abortion and immigration and so many other issues within the economy. And so this is a lot for voters to think about as they're going into the next 62 days towards Election Day, as well as the critical debate on Tuesday.
And Robert, what happens with a Democrat versus a Republican is when Trump says, I'm just going to magically make the economy better, the media goes, OK, that sounds good. When a Democrat says, I'm going to do a $3,500 tax credit for newborns, they go, well, how are you going to pay for that? Right? You on your social media often say there's an obvious answer to how it's paid for, but let's indulge our friends in my wonderful profession and ask, how would those ideas be funded?
Well, we don't know. I mean, the interesting thing about Donald Trump's Trumponomics, is that there's no there. There's nothing there. Every time you try to reach it and try to understand what he's talking about, there is absolutely no content. He says that he wants to raise tariffs. He says that's going to be good for the economy. But in fact, we all know a tariff is a tax on whatever is imported. We pay more because of a tariff. Donald Trump's only other policy is to reduce taxes on mostly the wealthy and big corporations, as he did before. He promised, you remember, that would improve everybody's bottom line by $4,000. Well, did it yours? Did it mine? I can tell you, I don't know anybody who got $4,000 wealthier because of the Trump tax cut. And finally, Joy, all of his notions about, well, he's a successful businessman. I mean, the only success he has had is not as a businessman, but really as a con man. He's a successful con man. But if you had taken all of the money he got from his father and put it into an index fund, just a stock index fund, closed the door, never looked at it again, it would do better than he now has done. It would be actually, he would be wealthier than he is today.
Yeah.
He's actually lost money.
He'd be a billionaire. He'd be an actual billionaire. He inherited $317 million from his father and promptly lost $900 million in the business that is in one of the easiest businesses, because he lost money on casinos in Atlantic City. He's supposed to be a builder. He lost money on that. He went deep in the hole, still got loans, came back, and now he's running this social media company that's actually failing. But I have to just go back to you just for a second, Robert, because there is an answer. We know that a lot of what this election is about that gargantuan 2017 tax cut that is going to expire at the end of next year. That is why all the billionaires are lining up behind Donald Trump, even though they know a tariff is a tax. Like, they're not stupid. They understand he's going to make everything more expensive, but they want that tax cut real bad. If you were to roll back that tax cut, just end it so that the super rich billionaires no longer had that, wouldn't that provide enough money to be able to do the things that Vice President Harris is looking to do?
It would provide almost enough. You probably would also have to roll back the George W. Bush tax cuts for the wealthy to bring the deficit down and do everything that Vice President Harris wants to do.
Thank you for doing that. Very, very important to get the real economist sort of information here. Lindsay, to go back to you, I know it must drive Democrats crazy when people say they think that they want a Republican because they think that they'll do better economically, or that they had more money under Trump, because that's just actually impossible, because the economy cratered under Trump because of COVID. And I wonder, is that a messaging problem for the Democrats? Why is it? And by the way, that gap has closed. Kamala Harris has closed that gap with Donald Trump considerably. He's still leading on the question of who would they trust more on the economy, but it must drive Democrats nuts.
Yeah, look, this is a messaging thing that isn't new in this cycle. It is something that Republicans, for some reason, tend to be able to go up by, maybe because the billionaires that benefit from their tax credits and their policies are the ones that can fund the ads, that can get the messaging out there, right? But the numbers show us that the economy actually does weather better under Democrats, not just President Biden, but Obama, Clinton, and so on and so forth. And so I do think there has been a shifting tide in the conversation about the middle class and low income folks and why they are feeling the pain when it comes to their finances. I mean, in the 2020 cycle, in the primary, I worked for Senator Elizabeth Warren in her presidential campaign, and she, along with others, including then Senator Harris, were all talking about what we can accomplish if we make these millionaires and corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. That's all we're asking, is for them to pay their fair share, and then the economy can work for the majority of us. And I love that there's so many articles out here now showing reports from economists who are saying, hey, even under Democrats, the economy does better, that there will be more jobs. That I think I read somewhere today that under a President Harris, there will be 10,000 more jobs a month in the economy. So there's so much here for Democrats to communicate. I think we've got to really hone in on this messaging. But the reality is this making the billionaires and corporations pay their fair share, that is actually pushing through. And folks are understanding that and showing that they're starting to trust Democrats more with the economy.
Yeah, I mean, Democrats are always the cleanup man, and the cleanup, in her case, she doesn't have to because it's been Biden, but they're the cleanup person. They have to come in and clean up a crappy economy they get from every Republican.